Do you really have a body? Are you who you think you are? Let's find out what the greatest spiritual story ever told has to say about the nature of our existence. An enlightened master understands that they have been nothing other than pure consciousness. And there are a group of texts that actually reflect this understanding, which are known as the Nididhyasana texts. Now, these are a group of texts for those on the cusp of enlightenment or those who have gone beyond the pale of enlightenment. And one of the greatest Nididhyasana texts is the Ashtavakra Gita. Now, in the Ashtavakra Gita, Ashtavakra is explaining the truth that we are this pure consciousness that the sages understand. And we have never been this identity or this ego. And so there are so many verses in the Ashtavakra Gita that is trying to reinforce this in our mind, to get us to come back to our true nature, instead of getting engaged in this ego we believe we are, in this separate world that we believe we exist. So I want to read to you today in a very important verse on the true nature of your being. I am not this body, nor have I a body. I am not jiva. I am pure consciousness. This indeed was my bondage, that I had thirst for life. This verse would be mind-boggling for anyone who is new to the ultimate knowledge. I don't have a body. I never was a body. I mean, it sounds crazy, right? When you understand it from your own separate ego. But when you come into the depths of the deeper knowledge and you start to peel those layers of the ego away, it makes complete sense. Now, in this verse, Ashtavakra mentions that he was never a body. No one's ever been a body. And the jiva, the ego persona system, has never existed. All that has ever existed is pure consciousness, pure non-dual consciousness, the undifferentiated consciousness of Atman, which is identical with the ultimate reality of Brahman. So we see in this verse that Ashtavakra makes a point of speaking about the body and the jiva as well, because the jiva is not just the ego persona system, it's the entire physical and mental aspect of ourselves. And so the jiva is this ego body, this body-mind matrix that we find ourselves in. And Ashtavakra is saying that when we understand that we are that Atman, are that pure undifferentiated consciousness, that we begin to be unattached to the mind and the physical body. We begin to, in some sense, dissociate, he would say, from this perspective. It's not that you don't live your life, but you don't identify with this psychosomatic organism that you believe you are. It's just doing its thing. It's living its life, and you are abiding in the Atman, and the Atman is just ever present, and this life that you believe you are is just a piece of life. It is moving through the world, and it is living the life it needs to live according to the circumstances that we find ourselves in and the energy that's moving it along. And we don't overly identify with that and think that that's who we are fundamentally, because who we are fundamentally is the Atman, is that pure consciousness. And Ashtavakra even expands on that idea, because he explains that his bondage was this thirst for life that he had, because he believed in this jiva, but because he believed in this body-mind matrix, that he had this thirst for life. He wanted to do this, do that, achieve so much, and he forgot who he truly is. And so that's what happens to a lot of us, right? We have this ingrained thirst for life where we want to achieve this and achieve that, and we want to climb the social ladder, and we want to have status in society, and we want wealth, and so forth and so on. And Ashtavakra is saying that this is a big, big mistake, because if you continually go down that path, you'll continually forget who you truly are. Now, the Ashtavakra Gita is a very extreme text, and it follows an extreme path of non-dualism, because Ashtavakra is saying that the more we go down that path, the more that we have this thirst for life, that we are trying to do this and that in life, the more we forget. And so we have this love of life with no respect for death, as if they are two different things. And so we only have this yearning to live while we're doing our best to avoid death. Now, there's nothing wrong with that because that's perfectly sane, but he's saying that from the ultimate perspective, life and death don't even exist. So Ashtavakra's point here is that the desire to live is to deny the Atman, because you don't need to desire to live, you're already living. You don't need to desire to get this and that. Everything will play out according to how the divine energy moves through you and how life spontaneously happens of itself. It's not under your command. And so the desire to live, in some sense, neglects the understanding that you are Atman. But the underlying point here is not just that in living we forget who the Atman is, but we need to understand that our desire to live is in a lot of sense based on this illusory idea that at death this is the cessation of your entire being, which is not true from the ultimate reality, because neither birth or death ever happened from the ultimate reality, from the Atman, which is Brahman. That is only the life of the jiva, of the persona system, but it's got nothing to do with your ultimate reality. As I said, that jiva will go through its life and live its existence, but if you don't understand who you truly are, then you'll never understand the true nature of reality. And so a lot of the time when we have this thirst for life and we're doing this and that, it's because we're doing our best to try and avoid the inevitable, because we are under that hypnosis that in somehow death is the complete cessation of our entire being, which is not true. Now, obviously, from egoic perspective, you need to desire to live. And obviously the ultimate energy of Brahman is compelling us to live, is pushing us to live actually. It wants us to live and experience this entire life because this is the ultimate reality. This is the one reality expressing itself in many different forms. But if we don't remember who we truly are, then we can't live in this life in a harmonious way. And so we can be very destructive, we can come across conflict, and we can suffer when we don't understand who we truly are. And so the aim of this verse is to reinforce that idea that we are Brahman, and life will have its way. But when death comes, we will be ready because we're not just holding on to life. We already understand the true eternal nature of our existence, and we have never been anything else. And so Ashtavakra is saying, if we can just abide in that, then the life we will live will be a harmonious and beautiful life, and you'll contribute many wonderful things to the world because you've discovered the open secret that Atman is truly the ultimate reality of Brahman. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.